Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Dr. Joey interviews Christian business professionals just like you to discover their secrets for working faith positive in a negative world. Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett.
Faith Positive Nation, one of the great fears people have, no, it's not snakes. No, it's not spiders, even though that may be your fear, right? It's speaking in front of a group of people, right? I mean, you can feel the cold sweat building up, right? And you just don't want to do it. Well, what if I told you that instead of thinking about yourself as a speaker, what if you were just a person with a story to tell? A story to tell about your business, a story to tell about what God's done in your life. And what if you could find ways to give expression to that story that allow you to share it and make a positive difference in the world without calling yourself a speaker? How about that? Today's guest, Faith Positive Nation, is the man who can help you get your story out in 8 online ways and 8 offline ways, and in some amazing ways in which God has gifted him to help people just like you to advance the cause of your nonprofit, your business, or just to tell your story. Faith Positive Nation, help me welcome to Faith Positive Radio today, Pete Vargas. Pete, welcome to Faith Positive Radio, man.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. I've already had fun in the pre-green room, virtual green room with you ahead of time. So I already got everything I needed from today, but I'm stoked to be here and serve your community as well.
That's great. How'd you like the coffee and the donuts? Were those pretty good?
Well, that was the cheap side of you, but the conversation and the comedy though was very well worth coming in early.
Virtual coffee is a little watery.
It's tough. It's tough. Yes. Not very warm.
Those virtual Krispy Kreme donuts, no calories, dude.
No calories. That's what I love about it. So at least I don't have a guilt trip with those donuts.
That's right. So, man, how many people have you ever met that froze up when you said something about being a speaker, right? I mean,
a lot of people, that's why even in our conversations, like your community today, I really want them to understand the power of using speaking as a vehicle and a mechanism to get their messages out into the world and get in front of more people whose lives that they can change. And that doesn't have to be 10,000 people on the stage. It can be 5 people at a coffee house, or it could be 20 moms or in a MOPS group, or 20 dads in a Bible study. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big thing. And so it's a lot of people would rather die than get on a stage until they understand the power of stages and understand stages from the perspective that we're talking about speaking. But yeah, a lot of people freeze. It's so true.
They do, man. Or they're afraid they're going to die while on stage.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
So what's that all about, that big fear of calling yourself a speaker? What do you think that's about?
It's I'll tell you what it is. It's a fear of how other people are looking at you.
Absolutely, man.
And that is not from the Lord.
Not at all, because he looks not on the outward appearance, right?
That's exactly right.
On the heart. So he told Samuel when choosing David. Yeah, it's rejection, right? We're just afraid we're going to get up there and say something stupid. I never let say anything stupid stop me. No, that's just me.
Yeah.
I don't really care. So tell me about this, because it's really a mental transition from, okay, I'm not a speaker, to, yes, I can tell my story and build my business or my ministry.
So, yeah, it's a mental trigger that, for different people comes different ways. But the mental trigger that I want people to understand is, I believe stages are the fastest way to get your message out into the world, and one of the fastest ways to attract more customers, more donors, and more advocates into whatever it is that you're doing in this world. And it's stood the test of time. Like 2,000 years ago, Paul would travel from town to town, and it doesn't, he would have to raise money for his missionaries to exist in those towns. Right. He was on a stage and he was presenting and telling his story, and people were giving to him. Like, that just didn't magically happen. Like, he didn't just provide for his needs just kind of out of thin air. He was asking people and telling his story. And as he shared his story, people would invest into his ministry and his mission. And now 2,000 years later, people are still using stages to grow. You think about like even a Steve Jobs, when he would take an iPhone out into the world, he would do it from a physical stage, and simultaneously it would be broadcasting digitally to millions of people across the world. Because stages are a fast way to get your message out to the world and get people coming in the doors. And so here's what I love to tell people, the mental shift that I want to go off in their minds from their business or their ministries is that 20 years ago, we were using the yellow pages. And even like 10 years ago, TV and radio were more popular from like a platform standpoint than they are today. Like they were easier to get out there. 5 years ago, Facebook was super easy, and now it's getting harder and more difficult. And so all these restrictions are happening with all these mechanisms of attracting people with your message. But the one thing that stood the test of time is getting your story and getting it out in front of people. And so the argument to the mental shift that I want people to see is, number one, it stood the test of time. And number two is that, I was on a phone call with a person, and I think this might have been where you were more going today. His name is Ryan. Ryan's like, the moment that I realized that I needed to be on stages was when I was sharing my story on a phone call. And on that phone call, I was like, man, I know what I'm talking about. I know this story and I'm confident in what I'm saying. Why am I doing it one-to-one? Why don't I go do it one-to-many? And all I have to do is duplicate what I say on a phone call or in a one-on-one meeting and get on stage. And he said that's when the light bulb went off for him. And he said he's an introvert. This is an introvert that literally was one of those people that would rather kill him, die than not kill himself, but die.
Yeah, he was convinced he would die on stage.
Yeah, he was convinced he would die. But he said as soon as he shifted the focus from himself and what other people think about me to the focus being on the audience and how I can serve them with what I'm saying this, he didn't say this, on what God has put in me. That's when it all of a sudden, the sweat and the fear and all of that became gone, because he was shifting the focus from himself to the audience. And now he was getting to do it one-to-many, not one-to-one. So,
wow. So he went from narcissism to service.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it's amazing how God can take the fear out of you, and that though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil. It didn't say we pitched a tent. We walk through it. And as we walk and we serve, the fear will begin to go away, and you will be able to have a greater impact on the world by sharing that with the world.
I love that mental shift from the narcissism to the service. That is so key and critical. Okay, so you help business people to do that. Now, you keep saying stages, right? There are lots of different stages, because for somebody like me who, I don't make as much of a living as I used to being a professional speaker, but still do it special times. You talk about the stage, and you're on the stage, and you give me a platform and all this kind of stuff. Well, stages. So that means there are various ways of sharing, of moving from one to many, right? And of course, podcasting is one of them that we were talking about earlier. What are some other online stages?
Yeah, so there's 8 different offline stages, and then there's eight different online stages, and the offline stages consist of like associations that are keynotes and associations that are breakouts, public seminar keynotes, public seminar breakouts. There's masterminds, there's local events, there's offline media, and there's what we call the end user, meaning the individual church, the individual corporation, the individual school building. So those are the 8 offline stages that exist. And then there's 8 online stages, and I might not remember them all off the top of my head, but
well, we got one, podcasting.
Podcast is one. Podcast is one.
Right.
In the association markets, they do trainings online.
Right.
And in the public seminar market, they do webinars online. There's online summits that are basically like a live event that's just done online. And we got to launch a major faith-based online summit a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was really cool. So there's online media. There is live streaming. Like live
Mm-hmm.
streaming has become one of the most popular stages that I'm focused on.
Mm.
There's blogging and blogging. I actually consider that a stage. Like my content is on a lot of other people's blogs and blogs.
Absolutely.
I'm on their stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the eighth online stage, which people don't think about, is there's a lot of people with online courses, online resources, online whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a 30 or 40-minute talk in a lot of their courses. And now everybody who's going through their courses is hearing me speak in that. And so there's all these online opportunities that exist and offline opportunities. And as people really get that story that God has put in their heart, prepared and created, and they have all of these opportunities to be able to take it to. And they don't have to leave their home. Like we're doing this right now. I'm in my home right now.
Me too.
And I'll do, and you too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do probably 100 to 150 online stages, one of those 8 in my home this year. And it is a very powerful way for me to get my message out to the world. So thank you for having me today.
Oh yeah, my pleasure, man. Excited. So who do you primarily work with? I mean, I've heard you mention ministries several times, but I mean, do you vet people to make sure they're Christians that you work with, or do you take on clients?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. So if it's okay, I'd love to just quickly share the story of how I got
involved. I love it. Yeah.
So I was a youth pastor in Texas. I graduated from college. I thought I was going to be the next Jerry Maguire, but then I learned I had to go to law school. So I was like shutting that idea down.
Show me the money, Pete.
I don't want any more school. And so I had the opportunity after college to go take over as in the corporate world, or go to be a youth pastor in my hometown. And I chose the big $18,000 a year salary as a youth pastor in my hometown of Hereford, Texas. First Wednesday night we showed up there were 3 kids, Jory, Stacy, and Mackenzie. And I told those girls, I said, we're going to build this youth group, and we're going to do it by bringing in powerful speakers. We're going to bring it home entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs and Super Bowl MVPs, stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads, health and wellness experts. And the majority of the people who had come through our doors they had faith in God and they loved the Lord with all their heart. And they would come speak to my kids. And I would see in an hour what that would do in my kids' lives. They would actually adopt whatever they said. And so it was like the power of 1 hour on a stage was transformational. Well, about the 24th, and we grew from 3 kids to 750 kids in a town of 10,000 people.
You had 750 kids in a town of 10,000?
We had all the surrounding communities come to church. My last Wednesday night, there was an article in like the big Amarillo paper about 750 kids showing up for the grand opening of the $1 million youth building that we built, that my kids helped raise the monies from because of speakers that they heard that taught them how to be givers in this world and not takers. And then my kids became givers. And so when I went to the church board and said, hey, the kids have already raised tens of thousands of dollars, can we build this youth building? It was a unanimous yes, because of the impact that these speakers were having on my kids' life. And not all of them were professional speakers. And so one of them that came in, his daughter was the first girl killed at Columbine back in 1999. One of my mentors, Bob Huffaker, who was a Nazarene pastor in Grove City, Ohio, said, Pete, you have to bring Daryl Scott in. His story is so powerful. So I brought him in. His final challenge was, there's 5 people in your life that you love that you need to go tell them how much you love them, because you don't know how long they're going to be around on this earth. And then he said, some of them you're not in good standings with. And all I could think about was my mom and my dad, because my mom and my dad, especially my dad, was an extremely abusive dad growing up. I was 23 years old. We had never made amends. We had tried everything to make amends, and nothing happened. And so I begged him that night to come back to the parent event that night. And he came back to the parent event that night. And as a result, after hearing my message, after my dad hearing him speak that night, my dad wrote me a letter that my wife and I got in the mail a few weeks later, and it said, I'm sorry for the father I've been. Here my son is having an impact on hundreds of kids' lives, and I can't have an impact on my only son's life. I'm asking for a second chance to do things right. And he told me for the first time in over a decade that he loved me. And that was the day that I understood the power of 1 hour of a person sharing their story with many people. And that was the day that I dedicated my life to stages and speaking for the rest of my life. I called Daryl and I said, Daryl, are you faith-based? He's like, I love the Lord with all my heart, but we have a secular school program and I want to get into the schools and I want to transform the schools. And he said, I don't know how to do it. I've tried everything. And I'm like, well, this was in 2003. I said, I'm going to figure this thing out for you. And this is the best way to illustrate this. Like, I figured out a system that would get him in front of building principals and superintendents, because they're the ones that make decisions to bring programs back into schools.
Sure.
Not necessarily the parents or the teachers. A lot of the times it's the administration. And so we would get him in front of 20 of them. And we'd see 5 of them bring them back into the school. And then we get him in front of 200 and, 50, 80 would bring it back. I mean, we just saw these crazy numbers as he began to share his story on a stage, starting small, but working its way up to be very big. We saw him begin to get into the school system and no longer impacting tens of thousands of kids a year, but impacting millions of kids a year, with stages and speaking being the number one strategy. And so over the last 15 years, my company and my team, we've been responsible for booking 25,000 stages across the world. And those stages have generated tens of millions of dollars that have allowed those organizations, individuals, ministries, nonprofits to be able to sustain their message to the world, because it takes revenues to be able to create the impact that we want to make in this world. So to answer your question, we have served Rachel's Challenge, which was a secular program that goes into schools. We've served Every Home for Christ. We've served Desperation Ministries. We've served Access.org. We've served a lot of faith-based organizations, a lot of 501c3s, but a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners that are simply looking for a way to be able to share their message with the world and have people want to engage and go deeper with them in that. And so that's what we've been doing for the last 15 years. And it does not have to be a faith-based organization. Like, that is not, we serve thousands of people across the world, and they're not all faith-based organizations.
Right. So you got the HR compliant version.
Yeah.
And then you got the faith-based version.
That's exactly right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
I share with my wife, it's crazy because it's like half of the people that we get to serve aren't in the faith-based world. And I love it because of who I get to show up and be for them. And then you've got half of the world that's coming to us that's like very strong faith-based organizations. And it's a cool thing for us. Like, we feel a lot of organizations either attract one or the other, and we're beginning to attract a lot. And it's because of both, because of the salt and light that I believe that we're being to the world right now. So.
Well, the workplace is the greatest mission field in the world today, right?
It is.
So you have that opportunity both to get your faith fed from working with faith-based organizations, but also to go be that salt and light and to let your light shine, man. That's awesome.
That's right.
So what are some of the challenges that you face? There's a potential challenge. Am I faith-based or am I HR compliant? There's a potential challenge, but I don't want to preempt you. What kind of challenges do you think about when you get up and go to work each morning?
Man, I don't think about a lot of challenges. I think about
Okay, what sort of challenges do you face? Maybe that's a better question, right?
As a company or as an individual? As an individual business,
you
right?
Want to slice it?
Yeah.
Company-wise is fine, or individual.
One of the challenges that I face is just making sure that in a world of, where there is a lot of people who aren't believers or don't have faith in God, it's like staying true to who I am and who God has made me, and making sure that I am still and quiet to listen to the checks, because they're like a lot of the times, like when God opens up doors and success comes our way. Let me speak about myself. I'll run through all the doors and like, this is the Lord opening it up. And sometimes it's actually me slowing down to say, this might not be good. And so a lot of the times the no's are the hardest for me, because I'm not willing to slow down and ask the Lord, like, is this something you want me to do? So that's one of the biggest challenges I face. And my wife and I spoke about it last Friday night, Thursday, or last week sometime. She's like, slow down and be still and listen to see if that's a door that the Lord wants you to walk through or not. So and I think that's one of my biggest challenges.
Oh yeah. Well, welcome. There's plenty of room in that line. Come on.
Yes, sir.
I'm standing right beside you. How do you get still? Everybody says, I don't have time to be still and know that God is God. I have to listen to God. How do you do it, man?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think the most important thing is I've established a thing that I call a miracle morning. And
Miracle morning.
Miracle Morning. Yeah.
All
And
right.
one of my good friends, Hal Elrod, wrote the book Miracle Morning. Now
Mm.
it's not a faith-based book, but it's talking about how you create your own miracle morning.
Right.
And so I found one spot, and when we get off here, I'll actually go to it. I have my deck and I have my seat, and I just get still, and I'm like, don't take my phone up there. Last week I was late to a podcast because of not taking my phone up there, and I didn't have my watch on. But I get
Hey,
still.
it was not this one, by the
No,
way.
it was
Faith
not
Positive
this
Nation.
one.
It was not this one. Just
No,
saying.
it wasn't. And I just asked the Lord to reveal himself to me. And it's amazing. I don't have my notebook, but last week I went into a relationship thing, and I just said, Lord, give me downloads. Like, what do you want me to do here? And
Mm.
I just started hearing the Holy Spirit, and I just wrote what he told me. And
Mm.
so it's just, I think if everybody can find their spot, where's that spot at work? Where's that spot at home? It just so happens that we're a virtual company, so mine are both places.
Right.
But where's your spot at work, or where's that spot at home where you can just go relax for 10 minutes and hear what the Lord would have you say about that?
Mm. So you found your best spot, which
Best spot.
Yeah, your best spot's kind of like a plant by the window. It gets just the right amount of sunlight, and you see it, so you water it and things like that. So number one is find your best spot. But number two, I hear you with some discipline. You consistently go to your best spot.
I mean, when I'm at home, I'm at my best spot probably 10 or 15, maybe 20 times a week. I mean, like, it's 2 to 3 times a day, probably 2 times on average a day, where I'm just sitting out there and just thinking.
Now, Pete, how does that impact your business development?
Well, it impacts it because I'm able to get on top of the business. I'm not in the weeds. I'm not in the forest. And that's too many of us, including me, spend so much time in the weeds and the tasks and the things, and then we don't get above it. And so even my deck, which is above here, is just a symbolism of what we have to do. Is it allows me to get on top of things and begin to think about the strategies or the relationships, or, positive and failed relationships, or the initiatives. And it gets me to be able to think and not be down here on my computer typing away or on this thing, oh man, I got one more thing to do. So, I mean, that's what it allows me to do, is really get on top and think.
So it's like Michael Gerber talks about, working on the business instead of in the business, only it's from a spiritual perspective. So really, you're getting God's download for the strategic vision and purpose, and therefore tactical implementation in your business.
That's exactly right.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's where the downloads come. That's really where the downloads come.
Well, why wouldn't anybody want God as their business partner?
I know.
I mean, the author of everything, creator of the universe, infinite as opposed to my finite brain.
Yeah.
Looks like to me there'd be a lot of advantage in
good advantage, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost unfair to the rest of the people who don't use God as their business partner, right?
Yeah, you're right.
You wonder why I'm successful? We tell people in our company that Jesus is our lead on business development.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so we go where we're called, right?
I'm with you.
Or sent. Yeah. So that's a beautiful thing. So your faith really informs this challenge of getting quiet and getting some perspective on the business. And so you use faith to increase your faith as a business development tool there that helps you overcome that challenge.
Yes,
so what
sir.
would you say, Pete, to somebody who is trying to have that be still in no time, and they've not been able to do it consistently? What would you say to them? Just do this one thing and see what happens.
I would say start really small, because growing up in the church and growing up in my specific church, it's like, go have a 65-minute quiet time. And, the power of 1 hour of a quiet time. And the sustainability of that is not necessarily can always be there. So start, I love how Elrod, his concept of the miracle morning, he breaks down 6 or 7 areas that you could begin to have some time in. It's like, make sure you have some physical activity, make sure you have some meditation, make sure you're reading, make sure you're journaling. So he breaks down 6 or 7 core things that he believes you should do. And then he says the common mistake is everybody wants to go do each one of these like 7 to 10 minutes. And now all of a sudden it's an hour long.
Yeah.
So he's saying, go create your 7-minute miracle morning. Like go create a minute in each of these. If you just got still for a minute, if you just read one scripture for a minute, if you just did a little physical activity for a minute, like just did some sit-ups or some crunches, like don't go create something that's like big because it's tough to bite off, but like start small. A lot of people, the reason they avoid speaking is because they're thinking about the 10,000 person stage, and I never want the 10,000 person stage, but watch how this evolves.
Yeah.
The reason people are on the 10,000 person stage is because they started with the 3-person stage.
That's right.
And they got comfortable, and then they're like, oh, I can go be on 10. And then 50, and then 100, and then 1,000, and then 10,000. So they paid their dues starting small, and then now all of a sudden there's no fear of the big stage. Will you get a little nervous? Sure, but it's because they started small. Like I'm encouraging you to start small with stages and speaking, but I'm also, it's the same thing with like a quiet time.
Right.
Even if it's a minute. This morning, I didn't have time to do my workout, so I have the 7-minute workout on my app. And I did
the J and J?
Yeah, Jane. I mean,
that's awesome.
7 minutes, and you feel really good. And
you
so
can do 7 minutes.
Yeah, that would be my encouragement. Is don't think you have to have this like grandiose 90-minute encounter with God. God will turn some of those encounters to 90 minutes with him. But like, if you will just think about starting small, that would be my encouragement.
Oh man, that's awesome, because success begets success, right?
That's right.
I do this one thing and do it well, then I add the next thing to it. And to him, you know, when you're faithful in a little, God rewards you with a lot. So
Exactly.
you're faithful in a lot. Man, I love that, because that's a low barrier to entry and I can get started right away, right?
Yes, sir.
So Pete Vargas, tell us what your website is and how folks can get in touch with you, because somebody listening here today says, man, I want to get some more Pete Vargas so that I can go tell my story.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're looking to tell your story more powerfully or get on stages, or understand how do you actually turn that into helping your business, we created a couple of really great gifts. If you go to advanceyourreach.com/faith positive, advanceyourreach.com/faith positive, I have some content that we've never released down below. It's the middle thing. It's called it's a 3-part series that will help you understand how to do this in your business and in your life better. And so, yeah, just go download that. It's no cost to you. And we've got an incredible free gift that's going to help you understand how to really use stages or speaking in your business, your ministry, or whatever it is that you're doing right now. So.
Wow. Whatever it is you're trying to do, you want to communicate it to people, right? Because those are your customers or clients. So that's why you want to go to advanceyourreach.com/faith positive. And hey, look, if you're on a treadmill right now, please just keep your front teeth. It's in the episode copy there, so you can find it and click on that. Chuck does a great job of putting that in there for us. So just pick that up and click that link. And man, so you're giving Faith Positive Nation a free gift, and you've never really given that free gift before?
This is this gift right here. We just, with our common friends, Tom and Tom and Karen, we just released this free gift, and we're using it right now. We're on a small little podcast tour. And so the gift is actually a gift that in the past that we've charged for. And so on this podcast tour, we're beginning to give it away, and it'll be available for a bit. And if that's not there, we'll have another gift there for you. It's a kind of a, it's for the folks that Tom has really connected us with. So.
Wow, that's amazing. We're really humbled that you did that for Faith Positive Nation. Thank you so much,
sir.
Pete.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Pete Vargas with advanceyourreach.com. He will help you take your story and craft it in such a way that there are all these different stages where you can share your story with people, and they'll want to do more business with you or support your ministry. Pete, thank you so much. I really have enjoyed this time together today. I've learned a lot from you, and I know that Faith Positive Nation has as well. So we pray God's blessings on you, your amazing wife, your 3 children, 10, 8, and 5 that are living with you now. And also we pray God's blessings on that one that will arrive in a few months.
Yes, sir. We just found out that we're pregnant, and we were told we would never get pregnant. We've never gotten pregnant. And a couple of weeks ago on our 40th, God surprised us. And so it's our miracle 4th. So.
Man, that's such an amazing blessing. Well, we shall pray for that baby to be safe and to come into this world, because he or she's going to have an incredible trip with the Vargas family, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's wonderful. God bless you, Pete. And thanks so much for the gift of your time and wisdom today.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Faith Positive Radio, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Suggest guests and ask questions when you email Dr. Joey at info@getpositive.today. And be sure to get your free gift of the 5 positive business conversations to have today coaching program at getpositive.today. Until next time, may God bless you with everything your heart can hope for and more than your mind can imagine.